Toy fans, it's Roberto here doing another unboxing, and this time it's something a little bit different. This is Privateer Press's Monsterpocalypse, which is a miniatures game. Basically, it's a game that you would assemble and paint and then play with the rules that are supplied with the game. It's a little bit heavier than your standard like game Monopoly. It's more of a war game, so if you're into games like Warhammer or the first edition of Monsterpocalypse or Blood Bowl, something along those lines, this would be right up your alley. But I got this in the mail today. It's kind of having a bad day, and I was digging into the starter box already, so I had already opened this one up, and then I thought, it's like, well, maybe I should share it, because I was really lifted me up. I was just like, yeah, you know what, this is pretty cool. And I don't know how many people know about Monsterpocalypse, but the second edition came out a couple years back, and when it came out, there was just the two starter boxes is what they basically started with that I had seen, and that was it. And I was pretty heavy into the first edition. I had a lot of the figures, so just two figures wasn't enough to bring me in. And I'd been watching a lot of Ultraman and the Japanese Super Sentai recently, just because it makes me feel good, and some Godzilla. And I was like, yeah, let me play something with some kaiju in it. And I looked back into Monsterpocalypse, and it looks like they've really filled out the ranks in the last year or so. And like with most of the characters from the first edition being redone and adding new ones, so this was pretty cool. And there was a couple of new starters, so I picked up one of them and a couple of figures. And the Privateer Press always has good art. The models are always top notch, and the rules are always really tight, so I figured I'd give it a shot. So anyways, this looks pretty cool. This is the Protector's box, and it is the Elemental Champions, is what it says. On the side, it's got the same piece of art as the front. It says it's the ultimate game of giant miniatures combat, and I can attest to the first edition actually probably was the ultimate game of giant miniature combat. On the back, you got the contents of the box and a little story, which I'll read to you. But the character in this box is Hurricanus. So I'm guessing that's the miniature. And then let's see if we can. And then the other miniatures in the box, we got. It comes with four fire kami, well, 3 regulars and 1 elite fire kami, and a air avatar. Then it says, unleash the power on an unimaginable scale. Take control of giant monster and its horde of minions and fight to control of your turf. Stomp the competition to dust as you slam, smash, blast, and brawl your way to victory in the biggest battle ever. To hit your table in an all-new edition of the world's best game of giant monster combat. This is the Elemental Champions. Even the lowliest monk of the Tenshi Sekigan order in Japan can coalesce powerful elemental warriors from the world of nature. Living stone, driving wind, searing flame, and raging torrents readily heed the call. With deep concentration and inner focus, the greatest monks become trusted guardians of ancient holy armor that can channel magical energy in temporary bursts of unparalleled power to elevate the monks into elemental gods who walk the earth. Hurricanus is one of the warrior gods, and he does not seek to harm enemies so much as to protect the innocent. Okay, so I guess it's a dude. I thought it was a woman, but regardless, doesn't matter. Says it comes with the figures and the bases they go on, dice, apartment buildings, game map, rulebook, tokens, etc. This game is normally played with 2 players. It says age 14 up. I could say the first edition was definitely a little heady for a collectible miniatures game, and it says 45 to 60 minutes. So, yeah, cool. Got a couple others. We'll get into that after I open this one. Just a couple of units, but yeah, I'll say I really did like that first edition, but it was a little time consuming. There was so many felt like every turn we were looking up the abilities of all your characters, because they didn't have like cards, stat cards. So this came with, looks like some parchment paper of some sort with miniatures in it. We got a base, a clear plastic base to go on, and these are unassembled. If you've never played a miniatures game, you'll get the parts. This is a resin, and you will basically have to glue it together, or pin it together, however you assemble your minis, and it'll have all of the parts you need. Privateer Press is usually pretty good about having nice nice minis that you don't have to clean up too much. But regardless, as I say that, there's a piece of resin right there that I'll have to shave off. Yeah, you'll need a hobby knife and your favorite glue. Basically, you'll have to glue them together, and you always, me personally, I will always give them like a wash with a soap to get any of the materials off that you would get from the factory. Sometimes they have some resin oils on them that you can wash off with some warm soap and water. And then, excuse me, after you've cleaned them up, then you just glue them, and then use a primer to paint, and then paint them after you've put a base on. But regardless, most people who play these type of games know that, but some people may have never even seen or heard of miniature war games before, and this is what they are. So it came, the big character came with some little minions to summon, I'm guessing, and these are the units. Let's see if I can get I think this is a fire commies. So this said it came with 3 of the same, and then like a wind or air commie, and it was like an elite one. So I don't know. You probably just gotta paint the elite one a different color or something. Can't really tell. Let's see if they look kind of the same to me. And then they all come with like a clear plastic base, which is cool. More often than not, miniatures games come with like black plastic ones, and you decorate them with whatever you want, grass or dirt or whatever, paint. But clear one, if you got a cool board to play on, sees right through it, saves you some time, and that's pretty neat. Don't want to lose any of these pieces, but yeah, some resin and some, looks like white metals. That's pretty cool. Also in the box, one of the big selling points when I was looking at some of the updates was they gave each of the units I'll just open it. They gave each of the units a stat card, which I thought the first edition desperately needed, because half the game you were looking up the abilities that were printed on the character bases, and they were just symbols, and then you were matching the symbols to whatever printout or rule book you had to try and look up the abilities during the game. And that always took longer than the game itself, I felt. I still loved the game because it was just giant monsters, but still, like, man, for a game that was supposed to be a little bit easier than their main game, War Machine Hordes, which is a straight up just really hardcore miniature war game. Like the entry level one was just be the Monsterpocalypse, and it's just as long, if not longer, just because you're looking up the rules. But regardless, these little stat cards, they have all the things you need right on here. So as opposed to the symbols, they just gave you what the abilities are right on a card for each of the different characters. So we got speed, it's how many squares they can move. Defense, and that's how many, when you're rolling dice to hit these guys, that's the number you got to hit. And then the number of brawl dice they use. And it looks like the boost dice, which is like helper dice that they hit harder, basically. And then the abilities, like this guy, he does, as a special action, ignites. During your unit activation, this model can spend 2 action dice while on the adjacent to a debris tile to perform an ignite action. If the tile is rubble, flip the hazard side. Models occupy the same space as the hazard suffer the effects of the hazard as if they had collided with the hazard. So even though it's all on the one card, sounds like it's still pretty heady, like the first edition where you have to basically play the game a couple times to know what's going on. And another thing, buildings. All the buildings that you play with little 3D buildings, and you're smashing them, breaking them to power up your characters, rile them up, throw the other monsters through the buildings. And the buildings would have, like, this is probably just a standard normal one, but some of them were like cool, like they were like bases, and they would give you extra powers, or characters would get more dice by just breaking them. High density. This is an apartment building. This building is now not limited to 4 per player. So there's got to be like an amount of buildings you can use, or a cap of certain types of buildings. But anyways, this was a big selling point for me. I wish they just released a pack of the cards, of all the cards, and so you can just use your first edition minis, because that was another thing that I felt like was a slight towards people who bought the old stuff. But regardless, still pretty cool. This looks good. There's this big bag of dice. So the white dice are your normal dice, and the blue and reds are like your special dice that you add to your rolls. And they're not standard 6 sides. They got basically just explosions on them, hits. So you either roll hits or misses, and depending on the number of hits on it, you add them up, and you're just doing damage to people, trying to hit target numbers like defense and whatnot. Then another cool thing about the game is comes with maps. Let's see, and this is Destruction Junction on one side and Calamity Park on the other. So what happens is, you lay this map down, and then you and your opponent both start on a side, and basically you'll place your miniatures down, like your little units will start off not on the board. They'll start off the board, and then you like spawn them by using your dice as like a currency. But like your big guys will start on the board and on one of the starting squares. I don't know what they are on this one, but wherever they are, say it starts on the board. And then you alternate turns between your monster, your giant monster, your kaiju, and your units. And then there's all kinds of things on the boards that, on the maps, that let you generate extra power or steal power from your opponents. And then there's the places, like, they're all squared out. So you have a building, you put it on the spaces that are designated for buildings. It's all really cool. A lot of fun. So, anyways, what else is in here? Got the full color rule book, which looks like it's got the other new starter monster on here, along with the one that came in here, which was the other starter monster was like a giant bee or hornet, and that's pretty neat. And the rules, is, got a lot of pictures, and Privateer Press always does a pretty good job of giving you examples and telling you breakdowns of what all the cards do and what all, all your different abilities. But yeah, it's pretty cool when you get to actually really into it and fighting, because all your monsters, they all have the same special attacks that they can do, like throwing, or people, or the kaiju are ramming through the buildings and stomping on all of the units that are on their feet. But then each card gives them their own special abilities. So as you get, here's the Hurricanus. It's his card, and it will have his starting health and his starting abilities. And then when your opponent beats you down enough, you'll go down to like a hyper mode, which gives you usually better stats and different abilities, slightly different. And you're like, freaking out. In the old game, you actually had two different miniatures. One of them was your standard miniature, and then when you went to hyper mode, you got this cool translucent version of yourself, and it was awesome. Looks like some paper, cardboard buildings. Let's see what we got here. Yep, some cardboard buildings. You just fold them, and I'll fold these later. But yeah, looks like, what do they give you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's pretty cool. And that's so you have some buildings to put on. So you got 6, your opponent got 6, and you got a neat looking board going. And then this looks like, this is for when you destroy the buildings. You got rubble tiles and stuff like that. So whenever you run through the building, sometimes they explode, the flame, or if you're blowing fire, like you got Godzilla style character, set stuff on fire, or the rubble will go out. But yeah, it does like extra damage if it's rubble on the ground and has fire on it. Give you a couple extra tokens, and I'm guessing these are to go onto your character mat for health. And that looks like that's about it. But yeah, so that's the basic one. And let me just show you real quick, like the first edition, they would come pre-painted, and it was, you didn't know which one you were getting. It was a kind of a blind box type of deal, kind of like HeroClix, or just, a blind box purchase. And you would get your standard character, and you get the hyper form. And it was a translucent plastic, so whenever you went to hyper, you took off the normal one and you replaced it. And then all of the stats, here's what I was talking about. All of your character's stats were on the tile already. It's all a bunch of symbols. It didn't actually have like this card here that tells you everything about it. So you were just spending half the game just, if it was one thing if you knew all your symbols and you played the same character over and over again in the same team, but I had a ton of them. And I didn't know everybody's abilities by heart. I'd play, every blue moon when my buddy came by. But yeah, so they had, and every character came with 2. So, if you had your giant bugs, your giant aliens, giant mantis, y'all got some of my favorites, like the King Kong knockoff, King Kondo. He had like a clear translucent. So yeah, you're into all that. And if you were into Voltron, they had an actual Voltron figure. And then if you were into like an Ultraman, they had a knockoff for you there, and I really was. And instead of cardboard, you had regular buildings, and I'm pretty sure these still are the same size, so they'll fit on the squares. all the old maps. It looks like the old map actually is a little bit smaller, like the squares are the same size, but the scale of the map is a little bit smaller. This one looks a little bit wider, but squares are the same size, so I don't see there shouldn't be anything stopping you from using the old maps if you wanted. And then basically the units were pre-painted as well, and they had all their stats on them right out the box there. So the first edition was cool, man. It was just there was a lot going against it to make it not, you know, it was not too user friendly. You had for what it was, you gotta buy a bunch of random stuff till you got what you wanted, and then it just wasn't a very short game. I don't expect this to be that much different. I really liked the first game, so all I'm complaining about. I really liked it, but it was a little just time consuming. So we'll see how this goes. I really like painting, so it'll be fun to customize these my own way. But there's something to be said about just opening a box and it's already assembled and painted, and you can just play if you know the rules. So you know, there's nothing wrong with either way, I guess. Let's see what we got. But that's pretty much everything in the starter. So let's see what's in a couple of these other packs that are also full of goodies. So let's just clean this up real quick and I'll move on. But yeah, the map's double-sided, so that's pretty cool. And I'm hoping the maps that come with the other starter are different, so you get 4 different maps as opposed to just the 2. But you know, whatever. I got older maps if I really want to play with them. That looks cool. Then a couple of the other ones I got, since I was a fan of Zor Maxim from the first one, who was basically an Ultraman knockoff, I picked up the Zor Maxim. So like in the first edition, he kind of was doing the cross chop blade deal, and this one he's kind of got a wider base, looks a little more like updated in tech, and that's pretty cool. It says Shadow Sun Syndicate's biomorphic and cybernetic nanotechnology is nowhere better represented than with Zor Maxim, one of the leaders of the Zors. These highly skilled and augmented humans wear high-tech armored suits capable of morphing their wearers' armor almost instantly into gigantic fighters, employing a destructive combination of martial arts, energy, and weapons. Despite his augmented size, Zor Maxim displays acrobatic finesse as he evades his enemies and closes in for the kill, then teleports away in a flashlight to pursue the next enigmatic goal of the Syndicate. Yeah, so he was part of the Shadow Syndicate. And you guess they were good guys, but they were also kind of mysterious, so who knows, you know, corporations, you get what you pay for, you know. So it's got his card. So when you get the like the boosters are just the single fighter, just not a starter. Just comes with the just the one miniature, and then the base for him to stand on will come in the classic Privateer Press box. And let's see if I get this open. It's got a clear plastic base, and then resin miniature, and he's pretty cool. Like in size comparison to the old one, look, he's towering over the old one. But they got rid of the stats on here, so you can pretty much just fill up this whole base, you know. And yeah, I like that. He's real big. He's got an arm, 2 arms, and then some metal blades. I don't know if they did me any favors by making these blades metal, to be honest. Like, it's probably going to be a pain to get them to balance on on this resin arm that weighs nothing. The blade probably is heavier than the whole figure. Regardless, it's pretty cool. Let's see. So that was that one. Now, what I did was picked up a unit to go with it, because they sell their units, and it seems like their units are 5-man groups, just like the starters. So the starter came with the giant monster and a unit, so I figured I'd get a couple giant monsters and units, and so I have like 3 different options. Little did I know they were all from the same, like it's called protectors. So I'm pretty sure you can just swap the units, and if you wanted, you could use all the units together with the same giant monster. And the game plays like you can do 1v1 or 2v2, like tag team monsters. So it's pretty cool. Now this was this S-type Shinobis. Got a couple different Shinobis, and then an interceptor, which looks like a jet or flying saucer of some sort. But these guys were cool because they're basically Ultraman or Power Rangers. So the unit is just a ninja, armored ninja dude. So he's going to be running around fighting tanks. So it's a big dude though, because, so say this is a standard size like car or plane or you know, like something around that size, and the dude is as big as that. So it's not like he's a small guy. He's not as big as the giant, but got a whole unit of those dudes, so that's pretty cool. And let's see, one of the things that also like really grabbed my attention was it's a 2-headed dragon, and I was like, all right, put a 3rd head on. We got, you know, some King Ghidorah action going on. I was really surprised. Didn't even notice until I got him that he's actually a good guy. So the space dragons, which are, you know, traditionally in Godzilla, you know, just Monster X, just a bad dude. So, but no, these guys are actually some good dragons. So I don't know if I really like that, but whatever, doesn't really matter. And not like I'm buying this for the hard hitting lore. I want to just do some monster smashing with some big buildings and crushing. So humanity is mystified by the Draken Armada in every way. Not only do these spacefaring reptiles possess a level of technology human science can barely discern from magic, but they're also highly intelligent. A Zybanos may be the most cunning commander. Each of his massive heads has its own personality, and their combined intellect is more than a match for many foes. In battle, one head is often directing the efforts of his smaller allies, while the other focuses on the enemy monster. When both heads direct their attention at a single target, the battle will soon be over. So anyways, got the picture on the front, the same picture on the back with the bio, and just giving you a warning saying, hey, you're going to choke on it if you're a little kid. And it's got the stat card, which I already pulled out. Like I said, it's the same, different stats, different abilities, and then a box of parts. So know what you're getting into if you're going to buy these. You got to assemble, you got to clean these guys up, and then, you know, if you're going to spend money on them, they're not that cheap, you know. It's like $30 a mini, so, you know, paint them. It's part of the hobby. That's like part of the fun, but it's also, you know, that's also a little time consuming and expensive, like getting all the paints you want, the brushes, all that if you've never done it. It's an investment for sure, but it is a hobby. It's like, if you haven't done it before, it is fun. I like it because I've done it for a long time, and it is pretty relaxing. If you're painting something, you got to pay attention to it, otherwise you're not going to do a good job. So it takes your mind off of things. And this box of parts is their like space dragon infantry. So kind of like the oversized ninjas. They're like oversized dragon armada dudes. So they got guns and stuff, and what looks like space armor. So I'll just grab a couple out so you can see. It looks like, let's see if I can get a, but yeah, anyways, these should be, they come with the weapons for the most part, and these will probably be, I don't know, probably a little more difficult to assemble than the bigger ones, to be honest. The big ones, whenever you do stuff like this, to me anyway, it's always more fun when you're painting something big and chunky. Painting something a little bit smaller could be a little more technical, but you know, if it looks good, then you're happy with the end result. That's all awesome. This will definitely be a change of pace for me, something fun to paint. I'm always painting, so it's neat to have different stuff to paint, and I love giant monsters, so this will be cool. Regardless, if you've never given a game like this a chance, I'd say this one looks pretty cool, but it's also, yeah, there's some time we'll have to go into it that you have to assemble and whatnot. So just be aware of that. The rules, like if reading a big rule book is intimidating to you, you can look on YouTube. Somebody will teach you how to play in like 10 minutes. It's not that hard. A lot of times the hardest part is finding somebody to play with, if especially in these days. But you know, anyways, give something new a try, and like, subscribe, leave a comment. See you next time. Have a good one. Bye.